Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. This segment of our nitty-gritty business winning practices series is bid and proposal management, a topic that is frequently requested by many of you and your organizations. Thank you for registering and submitting questions in advance. We put your questions out to many of your peers to get industry input and best practice ideas to share. Should you have any questions during the presentation, you may submit them in the control panel as we go. Time permitting, we'll get to those during or at the end of the webinar. Slides and the video replay will be on our website by tomorrow. A reminder for APMP members, this webinar can be applied toward your continuing education units required for APMP certification. I am Mallory Price, Training and Marketing Coordinator at Shipley, and joining me today are Michael Brew, Senior Proposal Manager at Shipley. Michael brings over 15 years of proposal experience and works with clients from a variety of industries, including energy, defense, IT, healthcare, nonprofit organizations, and academia. He is an exceptional communicator, trainer, and proposal professional, and hails from San Antonio, Texas. Brad Douglas is Executive Vice President of Shipley's Global Services and an APMP Fellow. Brad will moderate today's webinar and provide insights we've gained from proposal practitioners from across industries and markets. So thank you both for joining me. And here's a little bit about Shipley. I will let you look at it. We are a business development training and certification firm. We do end-to-end proposal support and consulting. And also we offer free webinars, industry insights, blogs, and many other things. So that is just a little bit about us. Thank you again for being here and for supporting us. Our agenda today, we will discuss common challenges and myths proposal managers face, the proposal manager roles and responsibilities, some core competencies involved in this role, some tools and application best practices, and then we'll summarize and do a little bit of Q&A at the end. So I think I have talked enough. Brad, I am going to pass the mic to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mallory, and thanks for getting this all set up, and Michael for joining. I just want to take 1 second and put in a plug for Michael. Michael served in the Army for 21 years. He was in several leadership positions, including domestic and overseas, and taught at West Point for a number of years. And he's a sought-after consultant, Shipley consultant and trainer, and has worked, as Mallory said, in a lot of industries. So, Michael, we're so happy you could carve out this time and be with us today. So, thank you for that.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
All right. So, like Mallory said, we have the ability and we like to reach out when we're going to do a webinar on a topic that's been requested, and most of these topics are requested by our clients or industry or others, and we like to reach out to our network, which is pretty broad across industries, and ask for their thoughts. And when we ask what is the greatest challenges you see as a bid and proposal manager out there in industry, we could almost consolidate most of those challenges to these two categories, if you will, of things. These are the two aspects of bid and proposal management that we heard over and over and over again. One is being able to balancing the tactical project management part of the role with the interpersonal and spending time with both. And then the other one that kept coming up was the leadership, the holding teams and contributors and stakeholders accountable. It's a challenge. And so when we had Tom Malott, our Senior Vice President of Business Winning, consolidate these responses from people, these are the two that kept coming up over and over. So as we go through this 45 minutes to an hour today, keep this in mind, that we recognize that these challenges, balance and accountability, are really big ones. And Michael, I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, to address a little bit more some of the other common challenges that we got feedback on that we see out there over and over in industry.
Absolutely. If you've been in proposal management at all, you know that different pursuits have different levels of complexity. Maybe you have teaming partners, subs, maybe you have different amounts of time available, but across the spectrum, we see very common challenges. Technology, what will we use? What's the best tool we can put to use in our proposal effort? Review shortcuts. We will introduce pink team, red team. Those are words that we at Shipley use, but the idea is we get some eyes on our products and make sure that they're right. But if we shortcut the reviews, they don't work the way we want them to. Accountability, leadership, who's in charge? And how do we make sure that that person knows they're in charge? Adhering to a schedule. We've got to stay on timeline. Getting that taken care of is of prime importance, very difficult. Strategic focus. Let's make sure that across the proposal, we have marshaled all of our points to make sure that strategically we have made the best possible case for us winning this award. Limited resources. A lot of us don't have people just waiting around for the RFP to drop. How do we make best use of the people of the time that we have? Customer focus. How can we make sure that our team understands customer focus and writes with the focus of the customer in mind? And finally, adopting technology. If we've got the right tool that we've selected, how do we make sure that people actually use it and use it well? Those are some of those challenges.
Thanks. Thanks, Michael. We'll be addressing a lot of these as we go forward a little bit more. One thing, and I'm going to ask you, Michael, and just off the cuff here, do you have any quick tips for helping our proposal? Because this came up in some of the questions as people registered, helping people feel the importance of adhering to that schedule. This seems to be a real challenge. Is people don't seem to be as engaged like they should be, to where they don't take the schedule deadlines and milestones seriously. Any quick tips?
Yeah, I would say if you're the proposal manager, capital P, capital M, sometimes you're going to have uncomfortable conversations. And sometimes it means that if the pink team draft was supposed to be turned in at 5 o'clock Monday, at 5:10 Monday, you're picking up the phone or going by somebody's desk and saying, hey, Marcus, it's 5:10, 10 minutes after this is supposed to have been turned in. I'm not seeing your draft in the portal. Oh, sorry, boss. I had other priorities. I had things going on. Marcus, the entire endeavor, this whole proposal is relying on us all staying on timeline. And now we can't have you taking us off. So you're going to have to burn some midnight oil to get that thing into us in quality shape. Those are hard conversations we've got to have. But if we're going to be good proposal managers, we've got to be ready sometimes for those uncomfortable conversations.
Great. Thank you. It's hard. It's hard if we've never done that. Okay, Michael, now those several of the people on this webinar have attended other webinars, and we've walked through some common myths. So we've updated these a little bit based on some of the nuances going on in industry. Would you walk us through some of these common myths? And we won't take a lot of time and dwell on why each one of these is a myth, because we'll be talking about that a little more. But these are kind of interesting, and these are myths that we need to help our teams overcome and understand. So would you walk us through some of these proposal myths that we see out there?
Sure thing. Quickly. Number one, you don't have to use the entire page limit when you're writing a page limit proposal. That gives you an idea of how much heft they're expecting to receive. But if you can say it in fewer words, do it in fewer words. Myth number two, executive summaries ought not be written at the end. Instead, write them at the very beginning. The executive summary written at the beginning really does codify your main points, and it gives all of your contributors a good idea of why we should be chosen for this award. The third myth: proposal managers should avoid writing content at all costs. No, they can write content too. On many occasions, I, as the proposal manager, have also written content. I would tell you, though, that we ought to be very wary of getting stuck, of getting mired in content, so we don't keep a global look across the entire proposal. That's when we might get in trouble.
Good point, Michael. And some are in very small companies and organizations where it's a one-person shop, in which case, of course, of course, we're wearing many hats, and we're proposal manager, we're coordinator, we're volume lead, we also have to be the primary writer. So in small organizations, of course, that certainly applies.
Absolutely. Yeah. Myth number 4, as long as we answer the requirements, proposal has a good chance. Compliance is the word we use for that. We've met all our requirements. We are compliant. That is a foundation for winning, but it absolutely does not assure you of winning. It's just a ticket for entry. Fifth myth: we really, my friends, need to review progress iteratively throughout. It's not just the milestone review. That may be too far down the road. Let's be checking in before then. Make sure that people are on the right path. Next, engineers, technical subject matter experts. Do they have little to do with the text? And can AI replace their writing? No. We need real people. Typically, we might talk a little bit more about AI later, but we need real people. And in my experience, it's not uncommon for subject matter experts, engineers, technologists to be the people who are writing the sections. Number 7, limit graphics because they distract from the flow. No, I love graphics. Graphics transmit a message. They trumpet your main ideas. They provide aesthetic interest. This is me. This is not necessarily for every proposal manager, but I challenge my contributors to try to have one visual element per page. What are the major steps? What are the major beats you want to make sure your evaluator understands? Those are the things that get graphics. Our final one, myth number 8: reviewers and evaluators won't care about spelling, grammar, typos. Now, it's true. I have never seen an evaluation checklist that has a section for typos. I've never seen it. But you can bet you are transmitting a message. If you've got 5, 6 typos a page, you are sending a message, and it's not the message you want to send.
So true. Yeah, I like to call these speed bumps. Every time something like this, some grammatical or error or something, just, speed bumps, and too many of those certainly has an impact. Okay, great. It's good to talk about those challenges. It's good to talk about those myths and dispel some of those. And that's the goal going forward in the webinar, really, is help us as bid and proposal managers, or potential bid and proposal managers down the road, understand some of these challenges and things that we might need to overcome. Now, this is a lot of information. I hope you'll maybe print this off later or go back to it. But often we are asked, hey, Shipley, what are common routine proposal manager, bid manager responsibilities? We're trying to create a job description here, and we're trying to put together some performance review criteria and so forth. So here we've just listed, and this is not going to be the same for everyone. Some of your organizations don't even have dedicated proposal bid manager. We understand that, but if we were to break down responsibilities for a bid or proposal manager, typically these are the primary and secondary responsibilities they would include. Again, this is not locked in. This is not in stone, but this gives you a feel for how you might craft a job description or a roles and responsibilities, a RACI matrix of responsibilities and so forth. So there's a few keywords there highlighted that are probably true and common in almost all organizations. Compliance, usually that's the proposal manager's role and responsibilities. The response matrix, assigning out tasks and what needs to be done. Building a schedule, these daily status meetings Michael talked about that are regular, down there under secondary responsibilities. Boy, it's part of that interpersonal balance, right? We've got the tactical, but interpersonally, we need to see ourselves as an on-the-field coach. I'm kind of a sports junkie. And what you like as a manager of a team, a coach of a team, is someone on the field, soccer field, baseball field, football, whatever it is, someone that really becomes your voice and your influence in the trenches. And that's often the role of a proposal manager. We shouldn't be standing on the sidelines with our clipboard and our headset just directing the flow. No, we want to be in the game and have that influence. So there's some roles and responsibilities to think about. Now we've decided to organize the balance of this webinar around some core competencies that are widely accepted in our profession, in our industries. And these core competencies are the same ones that are adopted by the Association of Proposal Management Professionals, APMP. And many of you are familiar with that professional organization and association. If you're not, I encourage you to go there, apmp.org. They provide a ton of information, including a body of knowledge that we can draw from as proposal professionals, business development professionals. So these are the four primary core competencies identified for a bid and proposal management professional: information gathering and sales orientation, proposal planning, all that goes into directionally setting up the proposal, getting it ready to go, all of that planning work, working with our sales team, our capture team. Proposal and team management. This goes back to that balancing. We're not just doing the tactical, keeping tasks. We're also managing the people. We're building trust, and teamwork, and we'll talk more about that. We need to be agile and nimble. And then leadership and the interpersonal. Again, being engaging and holding people accountable and providing recognition, not just at the end of the day or the end of the pursuit or the submittal date, but throughout. We know this. The best leaders, the best managers are those that give regular, routine praise and recognition for work that's being done along the way. So these four competencies are what we're going to base the rest of this webinar today on. So this first one is information gathering and sales orientation. We have to be cognizant of this. We have to be good at reaching out, sometimes even outside of our comfort zone, internally or externally, for information. We have to get it when it comes to what's our sales message here? What really is the value proposition we're trying to convey? So we have to be the ones, usually as the bid or proposal manager, whether it's our full-time job or not, we have to be in a gathering mode ourselves or with our team, and we have to assimilate. We have to aggregate all of that information that we're gathering. So the more we know about customer insights and hot buttons, customer perceptions about us, our solutions, our past performance, the better. Understanding our solution, the benefits and discriminators. What are we going to offer? The sooner we know that, the better. And here you see, right out of the APMP body of knowledge, one way to do this and to try to assimilate this intelligence, this information, is good old-fashioned SWOT. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What are they as they relate to this specific pursuit and this specific opportunity? Do we have weaknesses that we need to maybe try to mitigate in our proposal? Does our competitor have a major weakness that somehow we could highlight without naming them? Strengths, we certainly need to emphasize our strengths. So this becomes part of our role as bid and proposal managers to gather, assimilate, and really leverage this information. And here you see kind of that whole concept summarized across the top. There's this customer analysis. Hopefully, we might have to do it if no one else is doing it. If we've got a capture team or a sales team or someone else that's doing that analysis, fantastic. But we need that information. What are the customer hot buttons? And we'll talk more what a hot button is in a moment. The competitive analysis, have we done it? Where do we stack up? This capture strategy, sales strategy, who's developing that? And then that all leads to bringing that into our proposal. So as bid and proposal manager, we need to be the ones to evaluate, look for gaps in information. If we don't have information that we need to find it. Be active in information analysis and apply this into our proposal strategy, ultimately into our messaging. This is where our messaging becomes compelling, when we can tie it back to good information that we've gathered. Michael, I'm going to ask you if you would spend a little time talking about, we throw this term out there, hot buttons, or we often use the term, discriminators or differentiators. Would you walk us through exactly what that means? Just this might be a refresher for some, but to help us understand what we mean by hot buttons and differentiators.
Sure thing, Brad. I cannot stress enough the importance of understanding the customer. Who is the customer? Do we know them? Who makes the decisions? Then what do we know about them? What does the customer need in order to achieve the goals they want to achieve? What's affecting them? What's in their environment? What are the birds in their saddle? What are their key concerns? Those hot button issues. And then, do you know what important decisions they've got coming up? Now, I will acknowledge that for most proposal managers, they're not interacting with the customer on a week-by-week or month-by-month basis. But we should understand who our customer is. We should know what their most important things are. On the right-hand side, you see this like bullseye diagram. And the customer got issues. Isn't that great? Customers have issues. If they didn't have issues, they would not be sending out an RFP. Are you with me? They got issues that they want you to handle. Well, some of those issues are motivators. Some of them cause them to move. In the center, there is a basket of hot button issues. Those are things they're most concerned about, the things that are keeping them up at night. Do we know what those hot button issues are? Do we know what's absolutely crucial to them? And at the very bottom of this slide, if you don't know, ask someone at your organization. Maybe it's you, maybe it's somebody else. Should be in communication, should have been in communication with our customer. And proposal manager, you are liberated to raise a hand and say, hey, I'm supposed to be helping helm a proposal here, but I don't know anything about our customer. Who's been talking with them? Who knows them? Who knows what their most important hot button issues are? If we don't know those, we need to go back to the drawing board and figure that out. Now let's talk a little bit about win strategy. So win strategy is those things, I like to say, it's those things that make us the best choice for this award. So we're going to align what we know intelligence-wise with that win strategy, picking up from our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, those major themes. So what do we know about our competitors? about our customer, about ourselves. We need to make sure that that aligns with our win strategy. Second bullet, let's continue to review that, making sure that as things change, as competitors have dropped out, as customers change their minds about things, we've got updated win strategy. Third, let's make sure that we are looking at our win strategy through the customer's eyes. And then our final bullet on this slide, let's make sure we understand the benefits we provide, the features of our solutions that provide those benefits, and discriminators. We've got a lot more in our day-long and plus classes on capture that talk about these things. But kind of to sum up this slide, I would say this. As a proposal manager, it is with some frequency that I'll come in as a Shipley outsourced person to a client. And I'll say, hey, everybody, I'm glad to be here as a Shipley proposal manager for you. Very excited. Now, I've read the RFP. I've read your previous proposals. I've read other materials you provided me. Can you tell me in succinct terms why we should be awarded this contract? What makes us better than all the competitors? And sometimes this is the response. Uncomfortable, isn't it? It's a little uncomfortable. And then someone will say, well, because we're awesome? Yes, we're awesome. But what are those things that make us awesome? What are those things that distinguish us from everybody else, that set us apart from the crowd? Those components comprise the win strategy.
Michael, thank you. One of the recurring questions that was submitted when people registered had to do with more of the quick turn response proposals, which are more like Q&A type proposals. Is there a place for win strategy even in those? I mean, can you incorporate this principle even in the kind of the quick turn, rapid turnaround proposal responses?
100% yes, Brad. If you don't know why you should be chosen, if you don't have a good idea of the thing or things that separate you from the crowd, then we really got to hit the pause button and inquire about those things. It may simply be a 30-minute exercise between us and a couple of people in our company to discern what those things are. I would say more often in a really healthy environment, these win strategy components come about after weeks, months, even years of really good, solid capture work.
Yeah. And you just answered, one of those myths. Is it's not good enough to just answer the question, and answer the requirements. We've got to separate ourselves, just like you said, and so that addresses that one myth that we talked about earlier. Great, thank you for that. All right, the next competency. Well, let me pause. Mallory, are there any questions that either have been submitted or that were submitted prior that you think we ought to address before we move to this next competency area?
Actually, one did come in early on when we were talking about the myths. So, Michael, we talked about the myth of page count. Is there any competitive advantage to writing less than the page limit? What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a great question. I always like to put myself in the position of the reader, of the evaluator. In fact, if you've taken one of our powerful proposal writing classes, then you'll probably have had an exercise that puts you in the place of the evaluator. I love that exercise because it really does solidify the other perspective. So if you're a reader of a proposal, do you want to read, crawl through, slosh through more text that just doesn't say anything, it doesn't provide any more value, you just got to get through more pages. No, no one wants that. And so if you can compellingly, persuasively, comprehensively, compliantly answer the mail with a few less pages than the page count, I would say your reader, your evaluator will appreciate it, and points will likely reflect. Now, caveats. Let's be aware. A page limit does help us understand the expectations. So if you've got 100-page limit and you submit something that's 20 pages, you're probably not giving your customer the length, the amount of detail that they're expecting.
Michael, it is such a great topic, and there's a whole lot of things that go into strategically page count, because one of the key elements to consider, and this is what we cover more when we're talking about actual writing, is what do those pages look like? The format, the layout, the emphasis techniques used, the headings, the white space. So it's not only about page count, but it's about, if it's 5 pages of thick 20-line paragraphs and that's it, anyone's going to gag on that. So it's page count, it's page layout, it's design, using emphasis techniques that make it easy to evaluate. And Michael, I will just agree wholeheartedly with what you said. If you can say it in a half a page less, more power to us, as long as we're compelling and concise and answer them. Great question. Thanks, Mallory, for that. All right, let's go to this next competency, bid and proposal planning. This is where we see in our profession, sometimes we are lacking. We think we can get the RFP, we can shred it, we can parse it out, we can build a compliance matrix, and there we go. And that's enough planning. But there's to do it right and to do it well, there's a little bit more to it than that. And granted, sometimes there are short, quick turn, 3-day, 5-day, 7-day proposals, and not all this planning is going to be able to be really comprehensive. It's going to have to be shortened. So in the spirit of best practice out there, there's this principle of leveraging a proposal management plan, a playbook of sorts. We can abbreviate it PMP, Proposal Management Plan, or Playbook. Why do we do this? Because it provides the team with the big picture. There's enough information there where our team understands what we're trying to accomplish here. It keeps management and contributors informed. If we've got this playbook, conveys and helps us manage tasks, expectations, quality standards for our proposal going forward. Having a playbook or a plan provides consistent information and strategies to the team. We've got to have this visible out on Teams or SharePoint or whatever platform we're using, make it available. Having a plan, ultimately, even though it seems like it's extra work, it actually reduces redundancy and waste and rework. If we don't have the plan, if we don't have a playbook, then we're going to have these false starts and we're going to burn people out and we're going to frustrate people. So we can't emphasize this enough. Have a proposal management plan or playbook, keep it current, keep it complete. And I would also add here, keep it visible, keep it current and where people can see that. Proposal management plan, fundamental information. What should go in this playbook? Well, first you have to adapt it to your environment. What works within your organization in keeping people informed about the plan, the progress. Here are some ideas of maybe what should go into this proposal management plan or playbook. We would need a customer profile. Michael talked about this. What's the big picture? The key issues, hot buttons. Do we have a competitive assessment? Do we know why we think we're better than the next organization? Staffing and roles, responsibility. It's nice to publish these, to get these into a plan and a playbook where people can see them. Oh, this is what Michael's doing as the proposal coordinator. Oh, this is what Mallory's doing as the desktop publisher. Define proposal operations. Explain to the team what type of contract is this? Is this a low price, technically acceptable contract? Is this, is there a small business component to this? What type of contract are we dealing with? Printers, print information, operational information, locations, building security. Does everyone have the right access to gain entry if they need to get into a building? So this is fundamental information that should be included in our proposal management plan. And this was some of your questions as well. What can we do? What can we do as bid and proposal managers to help our team be more efficient? Well, here, create a plan, make it your own, scale it, size it to fit your organization. What else might it include? It should certainly include a compliance matrix, a list of requirements from the solicitation that we need to absolutely be sure to respond to. The proposal schedule, an annotated outline, a content plan. What's the plan for each section, each volume? We should, as proposal managers, if this is a detailed proposal, we should put together a writer's information packet. What kind of style sheets are we looking for? What are the best practices for customer focus? What's your page limit on your section? What help the writers along? Proposal strategies and themes. Do we have some major themes we want to emphasize? Michael talked about the executive summary. We may not write the full executive summary early on. It may be a proposal manager's job, might be a salesperson or capture manager's job, but we should at least have a bulleted out draft. And Michael talked about the key points. This helps drives our strategy and communicate our strategy. Having at least bulleted out executive summary as part of our playbook. We talked about team roles and contact information, and then file management. How are we going to manage all of the moving parts to this particular proposal? So those are the types of things that should go in a plan or a playbook. And Michael, I'm going to pause. Any additional thoughts on this that you'd like to pass along?
I often say that the proposal manager should take some time at the very beginning, before kickoff, to help draft these things. You kind of alluded to it earlier, but I want to reinforce that. To hold a kickoff, we'll talk about kickoffs momentarily. To hold a kickoff and say, we're going to give you a bunch of stuff later on, be prepared, is a waste of a kickoff. And so to put these things together ahead of time, maybe take 10% of your allowable time to put these artifacts together in the PMP or the playbook is a best practice.
Great, thank you. So kind of trying to, my mind thinks in little categories, right, or buckets. And so just to kind of bring this home as key points to this competency of planning, create that compliance matrix, of course, create and annotate an outline. How are we going to respond to this? Generate a response matrix that goes along with compliance. Who's going to do what? Make contributor assignments out there, and then track and keep track of people's assignments. Like Michael said, you may have to make the tough call, on a Friday afternoon or a Monday morning when people start missing their deadlines. And so that's the way it is. Now, this is simply just a screenshot. Okay, this is just an Excel. This is an example of a very simple proposal manager workbook. that you could create in your organization, something like this. What do you want in your playbook, in your proposal management plan, and can we get it into one? And this can be done, of course, this can be done in Teams, in SharePoint, or any kind of software, but this is just Excel. This is just a simple example of a cover sheet to an Excel workbook. And across here, you see partial. This isn't all of them, but you see the tabs. So there's a tab for the proposal outline. There's a tab for the compliance checklist. There's a place where you could track assignments and due dates, where you could maybe do a bidder comparison. Where do we stand against other bidders? So we just wanted to show you that this isn't rocket science. You, as proposal manager, you can put together a plan. You can put together a playbook, whether it's in Excel or online on SharePoint, Teams, other project management software tools. There's a ton of them out there. But the key point is to do it. And to APMP says best practice is we have to be good at that competency, planning. All right, now building the team, the next competency, the bid and proposal team management. How do we build this team? Might be small, might be larger. How do we gain trust in this team? So Michael, you mentioned kickoff, and thank you for doing that. Would you talk us through the kickoff and then some of the routine regular follow-up that should happen by the proposal manager after the kickoff?
Absolutely. The
Hey,
proposal
Michael.
manager. Yeah, go ahead.
Michael, you're fading in and out a little bit. I don't know if you're moving to and from the mic, but just wanted to know it was a little bit of fading in and
Trying to
out.
put my exercise in while I'm talking. Just kidding. Okay. We're going to try to project loudly. Okay. So it's very typical for proposal manager to prepare and conduct the proposal kickoff. That really does set the tone for all that comes later, whether that's a week or a month or 3 months. So we want to make sure it goes right. Here's some things to think about. We want to build a cohesive team and make sure that the people who are on the team understand who they all are. We want to share information about our opportunity, about the strategy we're taking to address the opportunity. We want to make sure we inaugurate effectively all of our contributors' actions. We want to coordinate everything that'll come afterward, and then we want to make assignments, provide tools, equip and enable our people to do good work. The kickoff is so crucial to the rest of the proposal endeavor. Now, once you do kickoff, I would tell you that for my experience, the proposal manager's job is so much easier. If you take, several days, maybe a couple of days, about 2% of your time to do the proposal management playbook, you put together those important artifacts. Well, once you've done that and held the kickoff, that is really taking the load of your work off. But you've got to keep your eyes still on the maintenance, on the standard. One really good way is through regular stand-ups. I like to do mine daily. If it's not daily, do what makes sense, but you can't just let things coast from proposal kickoff to painting, right? First bullet, keep check-ins short but thorough. I do 15 minutes. 15 minutes only. Let's go through that second bullet. Let's review the tasks, review the commitments, review the status. Check in. Are there any issues? Are any showstoppers? If there are, let's discuss those. And next bullet, determine the path forward. Maybe we'll have to schedule a different time. If it's going to take longer than about 30 seconds for us to figure out, then I say, let's go ahead and schedule another meeting for that. What are the commitments? What are the deadlines? We'll need to get, socialized. Maybe there's some collaboration to go on then during our stand-up. Maybe it's collaboration that needs to go on afterwards. And then any preparations that need to go on for upcoming milestones.
Awesome. And I just want to comment that the beauty of these regular status checks is technology is so helpful. We think those of us that have been around for a while, you think back to how we used to have to do this just through conference callings or getting on airplanes and flying. But the technology we have at our fingertips now for doing these status checks, and we'll talk here in a moment about more formal team reviews as proposal manager, but technology's really enabled us. And it's probably a topic for a different day, but you see one of the bullet points here, something kind of new to some of us and maybe most of us as a proposal manager is we need to understand what are the rules of engagement for our company, our organization to use some of the artificial intelligence tools out there, the large language models and platforms that are out there. What can and can't we do? What should we do and shouldn't we do? And again, this is a topic, it's a hot topic, and I'm sure you all have been attending sessions or reading up on this. But I just want to say, as proposal manager, but on the larger scale, organizationally, each company really needs to define this and establish guidelines and do's and don'ts. This is a big deal. We're now gaining access. All of us, we're gaining access to content from multiple sources that is at our fingertips, almost instantaneous, and it can be used for good and evil. It can be used for correct and incorrect. And our company, our organization needs to establish guidelines and policies and processes. And then we, as proposal managers, we've got to manage to that. Maybe your organization is going to say, hey, let's let ChatGPT do a first cut at this particular question or this particular requirement in the RFP, and then we'll collaborate with the solution architect, the technical architect, the SME, and we'll refine it as we go. That might be fine, but it might be not. You're probably reading, as I am, some of the legal implications of using this type of information. How much of it becomes plagiarism? How much isn't? We've got to make sure, if we're working in classified areas with government procurement, boy, we've got to be super careful with our information and our data. So again, I kind of went down on a tangent here, but please, the topic today is bid and proposal management. We've got to know the rules. We've got to know our company's policies and procedures and guidelines on this, and then we have to implement and stick to those. We can't go off willy-nilly, all enthusiastic about a new source of content. Okay, another topic for another day. So Michael talked about the kickoff being critical. It is. He talked about these regular status checks and milestones with individuals or small teams. Those are vital. Those are so important. But we also need periodic milestone team reviews where we get the team together and we actually see, where are we at? How are we doing as far as compliance, as far as win strategy? Are we compelling? Are we differentiating? All of those things. So proposal manager, if that's your role and your responsibility, be consistent in these team reviews. Help people know what to expect. So what's our role? We have to plan and prepare. We've got to do this well. Don't go into a team review ad hoc, unprepared. You will lose ground and you will lose credibility for the next proposal you work on. We need to facilitate with confidence. We should have an in-briefing for each team review, know where we're going, what we've got, discuss it as a group, report back. When we get offline and everyone goes their own way, we need a summary of that team review, and that has to be sent out and distributed. And so we got to debrief. We might have to debrief and update the executive team, the leadership team. Hey, how are we doing? We got 17 days until submittal. How we coming? So prepare, conduct, and respond. This goes back to one of those common challenges. Don't shortchange these. Don't shortcut these reviews. And whatever we call them, whatever you choose to call these reviews, embed them in your schedule. So if you've got a 30-day response period and you're building out a schedule as proposal manager, when in those 30 days do you want to do the first team checkup? Often industry calls that a pink team. We're checking up on our strategy. Are we directionally headed in the right way? So whether we call this a win strategy check, a pink team review, this shows some of the inputs to that review and what ought to come out of a review like this. Okay, if we've got 30 days, boy, we should be checking the near final draft at some point. Many in our industry call this a red team review. We've got the near final proposal ready. We're going to, part of that review, we're going to simulate the customer. We're going to do a simulated evaluation score, an assessment, and we're going to see where we're at. Gold team is kind of a final approval review, the final sign off. Have we made all the changes we need to make and updates, taken care of all the amendments? And then we should never forget about the post submittal team review. What did we do well? You notice on the left-hand side there, it talks about internal successes, internal problems. Internally, what did we do well? What kind of customer feedback have we received from our capture activity, our pre-proposal activity, our actual proposal response, and anything after, evaluation notices and things that we have to respond to? So these are just a few of potential team reviews when we have adequate time, a 30, 60, 90, 6-month window that we need to build into our schedule as proposal managers. And then the final competency that we wanted to touch on today, aligning with the APMP competencies, is leadership and interpersonal attributes. And we've talked a little bit about this, but Michael, if you don't mind, just talking a little bit with us about the importance, and I think this plays to your career background and experience, leadership and accountability.
Certainly. If you've worked in an environment where accountability was not well defined, you know the frustrations. Well, in a proposal, the proposal manager is the person who's in charge. And if there's one person who's leading this entire endeavor, it is the proposal manager. Each section author, they're looking at their own stuff. They're not looking at the entire endeavor. People above you at the highest, the higher levels of executive leadership in your company, they're not looking at the proposal. You are looking at the entire thing. And so it's on you, proposal manager, to foster that culture of accountability. Clearly defining results, making sure that we're all aligned around those results. That third bullet, making sure that we have instilled the accountability, making sure that we've got those results. And that last bullet, making sure that when there are changes, because there will be, we've got the resiliency to take those in and modify. I love this quote. Creating accountability requires doing the job and delivering the result are one and the same. They're the same thing. Creating accountability means the job's not done until the result is achieved.
Excellent. This is a big deal, in our, in all of our circumstances. Sometimes accountability gets fuzzy. This is one of the dangers of artificial intelligence, actually, is some people are going to tend to push off accountability to, ChatGPT or this or that said so. They said this, so it's got to be true. It's got to be right. And so managing accountability, there's just a lot of moving parts. And again, this is probably a topic for another webinar discussion. But Michael, thank you for bringing this to our attention, and it's something we probably all need to up our game on a little bit. And then the final part of this leadership and accountability competency is this idea of make sure we try to instill this in our everyday routine. Who can we recognize today? Who could we recognize for a job well done, for progress they've made? Is it one person a day? Is it 2 or 3 people a day? Is it at least one person a week? What can we do to build recognition and reward into our daily routine as proposal managers? So recognize good performance, the core team, do it ad hoc, recognize our subject matter experts. It doesn't have to be monetary recognition at all. Sometimes that's a gift card is appropriate, sometimes it's not. Build a spirit of transparency, make sure people are recognizing each other. Thank performance or good performance in writing, email, publicly. Of course, hold victory parties if we submit on time, if we win the award, even if we lose. What have we learned, and can we still recognize all of the effort that went in? Again, I'm kind of going back to the sports junkie. There's a local college team that won a football game last week or 2 weeks ago, and they didn't win by that much of a score. And the team went to the locker room and everyone was hanging their heads. They were all down in the dumps because they didn't crush their opponent. Well, come on, that's not the culture you want. If you win, you win, and recognize good performance and hold that up and make it part of your standard. So we're up against the hour mark, and Michael, I can't thank you enough for responding to so many of the questions that came in and handling these topics, sharing your experience with us. All of you, thank you for joining. Here's and this is a handout, by the way, for those of you that are still hanging with us. There's a little handout of what we would call a notional. This is just notional, but a proposal manager roadmap. So if you're looking to put some kind of structure in place of how you work through a proposal response, these are just some general tasks and milestones that you can think about as a starting point. That we see all the pre-proposal planning here on the left-hand side. You see a timeline across the bottom. Is it 15 days, 30 days, 60, 90 days? Where some of these team reviews might fit into a framework. So if you don't have some kind of process, some kind of roadmap, some kind of proposal management plan well defined, use this as a starting point, and plug in the tasks and the milestones you want to achieve into your own roadmap. When time is short, if nothing else, make sure you read the solicitation, the tender, the RFI, the RFP, whatever you build a compliance matrix of some sort. Make sure you know what you're responding to. Develop some sort of outline. Don't just start writing. What are our win themes? How are we going to win this deal? Create a first draft, review it, get some input, collaborate, revise, make sure we're focusing on the customer in our proposal and get the right approvals. Sometimes this hangs us up. We didn't leave enough time to get management approval, and now we're submitting something that's second rate. So make sure we've built in time for that final approval so we can submit with confidence and then do a win-loss analysis. So again, thank you so much for joining us. Some additional resources. There's the APMP body of knowledge. There's the Shipley resources, playbooks and guidebooks that are available. And then we've addressed questions as we go. So thank you. Our next 2 webinars that will close out the year are listed here. We invite you to go to our resources tab on our website. These are free. We try to keep them as informational as possible. and we do these within the hour structure about every 6 or 7 weeks. So thank you so much. Michael, any last word?
I love it. Thank you so much, Brad. It's a wrap.
Okay. Great. Everyone have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.